found out my house was gone because my mom answered the phone like nothing happened and said, "Oh, didn't I tell you? We sold it while you were away." I was standing in the airport with my suitcase still in my hand, jet-lagged, sunburned, and smiling from what I thought had been the best vacation of my life. And in one sentence, my entire reality collapsed. My own mother sold my house to pay off my sister's $214,000 in debt. So tell me honestly, was I wrong for what I did next? Or would you have done the exact same thing if your own family betrayed you like this? I need to start from the beginning, because none of this makes sense unless you understand my family dynamic and how blind I was for years. Growing up, it was always clear that my older sister, Melissa, was the favorite. She was dramatic, loud, impulsive, and constantly in some kind of trouble. But my mom treated her like she was fragile, glass that might shatter if anyone said no to her. I was the opposite. Quiet, responsible, good grades, part-time job as soon as I was old enough. I was the kid who didn't cause problems, and because of that I was mostly ignored. My dad used to joke that I was low maintenance, but what that really meant was that nobody checked on me because they assumed I'd be fine. Melissa burned through money like it was paper. Credit cards, personal loans, sketchy business ideas, you name it. She dropped out of college twice. Married a guy who promised he'd make millions in crypto. Divorced him 6 months later. And somehow always landed back at my mom's house when things went wrong. My mom would sigh, say, "What can I do? She's my daughter." And then write another check or take out another loan. I used to feel bad for her, until I realized she never felt bad for herself. I moved out at 18, worked my way through community college, then a state university. I saved obsessively. I skipped vacations, drove an old car with no AC, and lived with roommates well into my late 20s. When I was 32, I finally bought a small house. Nothing fancy, but it was mine. 2 bedrooms, a tiny yard, creaky floors, and a kitchen that always smelled like coffee in the mornings. I cried when I signed the papers. That house represented every sacrifice I'd ever made. A year later, my mom called me in tears. Melissa was drowning in debt. One failed business after another, maxed out cards, unpaid taxes. The total was $214,000. I remember that number because it made me nauseous. My mom begged me to help. She said collectors were calling day and night, that Melissa was on the brink, that she didn't know what else to do. I said I couldn't pay that. I didn't have that kind of money. Then my mom asked if she could move in with me temporarily, just until things stabilized. Against my better judgment, I agreed. Melissa moved into my guest room with boxes of stuff and zero shame. She didn't pay rent. She complained about my rules. She ate my food, borrowed my car, and never once thanked me. Every conversation turned into a fight. When I finally told my mom that Melissa needed to start contributing or move out, my mom accused me of being heartless. She said, "You've always been so selfish with your money." That hurt more than I expected. Still, I stood my ground. Melissa moved back in with my mom, and our relationship never fully recovered. I thought that was the worst it would get. I was wrong. Last summer, I took my first real vacation in years. 2 weeks overseas. I'd saved for it carefully, planned every detail, and told my mom I'd be mostly unreachable except for emergencies. She hugged me before I left and told me to have fun. She even watered my plants sometimes when I traveled for work. So I asked her to keep an eye on the house while I was gone. I gave her a spare key. I trusted her. That part still makes me feel sick. The vacation was incredible. For the first time in my life, I felt free. No work emails, no family drama, just me exploring, eating street food, taking photos, feeling like a person instead of a backup plan. I came home relaxed, happy, and completely unprepared for what waited for me. When my plane landed, I turned my phone on and saw dozens of missed calls and messages. From my mom, from Melissa, from unknown numbers. My stomach dropped. I called my mom first. That's when she said it. Calmly, casually. Like she was telling me she rearranged the furniture. She told me she sold my house. Not her house, my house. Apparently, she had contacted a real estate agent, forged my signature on documents, and completed the sale in less than 2 weeks. The money went straight to paying off Melissa's debts. I remember sitting down on the airport floor because my legs stopped working. I kept saying, "What do you mean you sold it?" And she kept responding with, "It was the only way." She said Melissa was being sued. She said interest was piling up. She said I owed it to the family because I was the only one stable enough to take the hit. She actually said, "You don't have kids. You can start over." When I got to my street, I didn't even recognize it at first. My house had a different car in the driveway, different curtains in the windows. The locks had been changed. A stranger answered the door when I knocked. He looked confused, then annoyed, then concerned when I started crying and explaining that this used to be my home. He told me to leave or he'd call the police. I slept in my car that night. Before I tell you what I did next, I want you to stop for a second and really think about this. Your own mother steals your house, erases years of work, and gives it to your sibling, who's never taken responsibility for anything. If that were you, what would you do? Would you forgive? Would you walk away? Or would you fight back? Comment what you would have done, because at that moment, I had to make a choice that changed everything. The next morning, I called a lawyer. I barely had a voice left from crying, but I explained everything. He went very quiet, then told me what my mom did was highly illegal. Forgery, fraud, identity theft. The sale itself could potentially be reversed. Hearing that was like oxygen rushing back into my lungs. For the first time since landing, I felt anger instead of shock. I confronted my mom that afternoon. I went to her house and Melissa was there, lounging on the couch like a queen who'd just won a war. She didn't even look guilty. She smiled and said, "I knew you'd land on your feet." That was the moment something inside me snapped. I told them I was pressing charges. My mom started screaming. Melissa started crying. They both accused me of ruining the family. My mom said she did it out of love. Melissa said she'd kill herself if I took this away from her. I walked out and didn't look back. The legal process was brutal. Police reports, statements, document reviews. My mom was arrested. Seeing her in handcuffs was surreal and heartbreaking. But I kept reminding myself that she made this choice. The buyers sued when the sale was frozen. Melissa's creditors came back full force. She tried calling me dozens of times, leaving voicemails swinging between apologies and threats. In the end, the court ruled in my favor. The sale was voided. I got my house back, but it was damaged. Walls painted different colors, floors scratched, fixtures replaced with cheaper ones. It felt violated, like someone had lived inside my skin. My mom took a plea deal. Probation, fines, mandatory restitution. Melissa declared bankruptcy and moved out of state with a new boyfriend within months. We don't talk anymore. Any of them. It's been a year now. I've repainted the walls, fixed the floors, changed the locks again. I go to therapy. Some days the betrayal still hits me out of nowhere. Like when I smell my mom's old perfume or hear my sisters laugh in a crowd. But I sleep in my own bed, in my own house. And that matters. What I learned is painful but simple. Being the responsible one doesn't mean you owe everyone else your life. Love doesn't justify abuse, and family doesn't get a free pass to destroy you. Sometimes the bravest thing you can do is say no, even when it costs you everything you thought you had. If you were on my side in this story, like this video, if you want to hear more real, raw stories like this, subscribe to the channel. And seriously, tell me in the comments, was I wrong for pressing charges against my own mom? Or did she cross a line that can never be uncrossed? I'll see you all in the next story.